From Courtside of the Virtual Hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast, a weekly show for basketball gamers and hardcore hoopheads. This is episode 592. I'm Andrew in our forum, Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. I'm joined as always by my co-host Derek, DP3 in the forum, and DP3G and DP384 on X. Derek, we're all about immaculate presentation here on the NLSC Podcast, and hey, it seems to be a priority for 2K as well. With that being said, please tip us off.
We're already on PS6 gen here on the NLSC Podcast, folks. So we're going to continue our coverage of the NBA 2K26 preview season. On this show, we'll be discussing the Courtside Report related to presentation. And this is going to go over updates, enhancements, and more related to things like graphics, art, the commentary team, and more. So let's get into it. So, Andrew, I didn't hate the way NBA 2K25 looked. You know that. In fact, I think that for me, from a graphics perspective, it was the best on PS5 gen. I loved the fidelity of cutscenes. I loved the way the lighting looked on most courts. I thought that just overall, the presentation was pretty solid. So when they announced the new presentation updates, I was hoping that they didn't hurt anything. Basically that was in 2K25 that I liked, and that I saw that other people liked, but they really only enhanced the presentation in the game, and it looks to be the case. I got to be honest with you. One of the funny things about when you look at preview season for a game is they start kind of throwing the past game under the bus.
Yeah, they really do. Always.
It's really funny. Yeah, it's like all of a sudden the past game is just so inferior in so many ways, and in a way it's good marketing, but like again, it's funny when they're throwing the past game under the bus, and it's like, oh well, our graphics weren't good enough here. This wasn't good enough here.
Well, they do it for everything.
Now look how great it's going to be.
Gameplay modes, it's throwing
it's pretty much everything
under the bus.
Right.
Yeah, it's one thing to say, oh, we've made a great game even better. We've found a way to enhance it beyond what we've done before, but last year, when the stuff we said was really good, and this is something that I've gone into in my Lies of Developer Blogs video, all that stuff we said was awesome. Actually, these were Band-Aid fixes, and that wasn't very good at all. So, totally believe us this time.
Right, 2K19 preview season, they're like, we didn't talk about it all year, but the blow-by issue was a thing.
We messed up,
and it basically broke the game, but we fixed that this year, right?
Totally.
Getting into the Courtside Report related to presentation, it states, NBA 2K26 captures authentic NBA presentation with new improvements. It kicks off with stunning visuals and iconic voices add to big moments in NBA 2K26. And before I start talking about the graphics, I do want to say that props to 2K for adding Tim Legler to the commentary crew. They talk about this at the end of this article, but I wanted to bring it up now. I think Tim Legler is one of the few voices in basketball media that actually talks about the game the right way. That actually wants to talk about X's and O's. Yeah. Somebody that tells it like it is, and somebody that people respect. Like, the average fan respects Tim Legler. And if you look at, any posts on social media about Tim Legler, about him potentially becoming part of a regular commentating crew in the NBA. They're like, oh, replace Doris Burke with Tim Legler, please. Right? So, there's respect out there for him. So getting Legler in there, and then, Stan Van Gundy was a great addition, I think you would agree, to the commentary crew for last year. I think they're doing good things when it comes to bringing in new voices for the game. I also think it's kind of unheard of in sports gaming to continue to add like they are.
Oh, yeah.
To these commentating crews. Getting new voices in there, removing some voices. Thank God Bill Simmons isn't in there anymore, right? Boy, was he terrible to listen to. Whether we like them or not, which we don't, getting a second commentary crew with Brian Anderson and Grant Hill, which I'm sure they'll be back, etc. But, yeah. Unheard of in sports gaming. They do deserve props for that. These guys do have a ton of lines too, and most of the additions have been solid.
For sure, it is definitely worth praising in NBA 2K over the years, and having the historical commentary as well for the MyNBA eras and the eras rosters. Very commendable, to say the very least. And on the subject of Tim Legler, I'm glad to see him in the game as well. I've always enjoyed his analysis on ESPN broadcasts. But if I may offer up a wry comment here, Derek, kind of surprised that they're still employing him. I mean, he's actually talking about basketball and making sense and not towing a line, not pushing an agenda. Does he really fit at that network anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it's still sad that it seems like Kendrick Perkins gets more airtime than he does.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's still sad that, the people who bring the drama or create drama or do stupid hot takes, all of that stuff, that they still get more, airtime. But, baby steps, right? Tim Legler, at least we're seeing him in the game now. At least we're seeing him a little bit more on TV. I wouldn't mind hearing from him a little bit more. But getting back to the presentation updates, they state NBA 2K26 tip-off on PlayStation 5 is less than a month away, bringing a host of exciting gameplay innovations and presentation enhancements in the latest iteration of the NBA 2K franchise. And I'm reading this straight off of PlayStation.blog. This is Kyle Martin, manager, global digital content of NBA 2K, that put together this article. Continues, this year, the visual concepts development team made another Euro step forward in lifelike animations and authenticity. Euro step sometimes is sideways, right?
I was going to say.
So I guess you could say. So I guess you could state, maybe they're going sideways with stuff. Maybe things are just going to be the same, and then maybe we're going a little forward too, just a little bit slower.
I just love the forced. That
wouldn't have been my choice of words.
Yeah, I just love the forced lingo in there. It's like he sure did slam dunk that home run, didn't he?
It reminds me of the game, the Heightened the Parabola game, where just the commentary doesn't really make any sense. Continuing, he states, with heightened player fidelity, palpable arena atmosphere, energetic commentary, and captivating pageantry. Let's get into it. I think he may have had too much caffeine when he wrote that first line. But hey, you know what? It's got us laughing, so it's good stuff.
Wait, so heightened fidelity but not heightened parabola? Pre-order cancelled.
I know. It should, cancel it just like an Elite 11 at this point. It kicks off with player fidelity, and it shows a screenshot from 2K25 of SGA in the same pose as a screenshot from NBA 2K26. You can definitely notice that the text on the jersey has been updated. You can definitely tell that the jersey looks like to be a little bit higher quality, but they definitely used probably the poorest example from 2K25 in a screenshot that they possibly could to make NBA 2K26 look better. And the reason why I say this is you saw me post this in the Discord.
I did, yes.
On the SGA example that they're using for 2K25, he has like hardly any shine on him. Looks a little bit washed out, right? And that's intentional. That's marketing right there. I showed screenshots that I just took last night from NBA 2K25 of Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Kobe Bryant, etc. And there's more detail and more shine by quite a bit compared to that example. But again, got to get those people in for the pre-orders, got to get those people to buy the game. It's good advertising. It might be the worst example you can get, and probably the best example from 2K26. And you can see, on the 2K26 screenshot, like I stated, more detail on the jersey, more sweat. You can actually see beads of sweat on his shoulder, more shine on his face, more shine on the back of his neck, etc. We'll see how that plays out in game. We'll see if it's much different than the screenshots that I showed. But yeah, I don't hate this. Like, of course, we're welcoming more detail on the players, more detailed muscle, which is something they mentioned, making them look more like basketball players, right? So that's not a bad thing.
Definitely not. And like we've said before, you and I, we come from an era of growing up with 8-bit games, 16-bit games, where players had a couple of dots for eyes, very minimal detail. The jerseys were maybe the right color, perhaps, some extra detail as games got a bit more sophisticated in the late 90s, and then finally had proper textures kind of around the mid to late 90s, depending on the game, depending on the platform, of course. So I don't have any complaints about how NBA 2K26 looks from what we've seen in the gameplay trailer or the stills in the screenshots. But it's like you said, they do throw last year's game under the bus. They do get the worst possible shots, or certainly less flattering shots of last year's game. They take a shot where players aren't really sweating yet, then they get a really sweaty picture from the new game and say, oh, look at how the sweat effects are so much better. But last year's screenshot is from earlier on in the game where players aren't sweating as much, then they're taking that shot from later on in the game for this year's game where players are sweating, so of course they've got more sweat on them. But yeah, you can see the improvements. I certainly don't hate them. It's great to see them harnessing the power of the current generation of technology. So, no complaints, but once again, you're absolutely right. They do pick the worst possible screenshots, or certainly a less flattering screenshot, in order to throw last year's game under the bus.
Hey, listen, I come from the era of games where the players didn't have eyes at all. You come from dotted eyes. I come from no eyes. So I was hitting no-look threes from the corner, Andrew.
Well, I couldn't look. They've got no eyes.
Exactly. So it continues. The weight of the moment combined with the wear and tear of each dribble, foul, and collision takes a physical toll over the course of a game. In NBA 2K26, the evolution of player fidelity is more noticeable thanks to a new shader that brings out the subtleties of each player's skin. Get up close and see the sweat stream down the pores on players' faces, the cracks in their lips, Andrew, from dehydration, and the improved muscle definition of a thunderous dunk. So we're going to see the cracks in their lips from dehydration. I'm just waiting for the first screenshots of that. As you stated, it doesn't really mean anything unless there's a new mode in the game called My Lips.
Mm-hmm.
And like I stated, each crack will cost VC. But yeah, I mean, again, I don't hate any of this, right? Like I love the idea of improved sweat and sweat progression, more detail on the players' faces, especially improved muscle definition, because as I've stated in the PS5 Gen 2Ks and 2K18, 2K19, the players kind of had that Gumby look to them. Didn't really look like athletes. And then that terrible skinny body type that was in NBA 2K17, which never made it through production. Otherwise, the body types were okay in that game, but that skinny body type was terrible. But yeah, I'm cool with the players looking more like real athletes.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm a fan of them pushing the limits as far as these technological improvements and making the players more lifelike and realistic in their movement and their appearance. Takes you back to some of the improvements that EA were talking about with the Ignite engine for NBA Live on last generation, where you zoom in on the players and you can see muscle moving over bone and the skin stretching. And you don't really notice it during gameplay, obviously. And NBA Live had so many other issues with animations and controls and underlying mechanics that you couldn't really appreciate some of the stretching skin and muscle moving over bone. But you do go into instant replay and zoom in on the players, and it is there. And sure, you can't notice it during gameplay moment to moment, but when you do have those close-ups, seeing the muscles flex and skin and muscle moving over bone, no, you definitely do appreciate it. And it is the kind of technological improvement that you would expect at this point.
It continues. This new shading technology makes uniforms and shoes look even more detailed and stunning. The curvature of embroidered names on the back of jerseys boasts increased accuracy. You can even see this ultra-fine stitching. These minute details bring you closer to the action than ever before. I think the jersey quality has been mostly poor compared to games like NBA 2K14, right? Not only the jersey movement, but the jersey quality, like the way the fabric looks, all of that stuff. So, any enhancements to the jersey quality is welcome. I think overall, the last few years, it just looks like the jerseys are stuck to the players, right? Like it looks like they're part of the player's body, like completely stuck to them. And even when you zoom in, it's like the jerseys don't look like real clothes, like in my opinion. They just lack detail. So, those enhancements are, once again, welcome. I like the sounds of all of this.
Yeah, once again, we grew up with games that were far more primitive. You had jerseys that felt kind of painted on to the player models, didn't really stand out as actual cloth. So the fact that that's been introduced over the years is a noticeable improvement when you go through video games throughout the years. Like you say, it hasn't really popped in recent years. But yeah, I'm all for improvements in this regard. I'm not the harshest critic when it comes to graphics in general because of the games that I grew up with, but I also appreciate these details and these improvements. So yeah, no complaints whatsoever. I think it's a valid thing for them to have focused on.
Moving on to arena visuals, it says, taking the grandeur of these larger-than-life NBA arenas with improved lighting, floor shading, and team-specific features in NBA 2K26. And they show a side-by-side screenshot again of SGA, this time at the free throw line. 2K25, hey, you can see some shine on the player. This one looks a little bit more realistic from what I've seen in game. And then the screenshot of 2K26. And on NBA 2K26, there's definitely improved reflections on the floor. There's no doubt about that in those two screenshots. And there's more shine on SGA. I see more muscle in his left arm. He definitely looks more realistic in the NBA 2K26 screenshot. And then the caption underneath this comparison states improved arena lighting, and then it continues. The lighting in NBA 2K26 has been redesigned to improve light intensity and color correction. Coupled with the new skin shader, the players shine and reflect like the stars they are as they dazzle under the bright lights of the arena. And it continues, improved court floors. In addition to the new skin shaders, new floor shaders have been introduced to add more life and sheen to every court. The meticulously polished courts in NBA 2K26 invite you to step on the hardwood and observe the uniqueness of each team's home court. Depending on the camera angle you prefer, there's a distinct contrast in wood grain color based on a higher or lower view. And yeah, I see improved reflections. I see some color correction in that 2K26 screenshot, as I should, going by what they just stated. And yeah, again, I don't hate any of this. I love the idea of it. And yeah, I'm kind of excited to see how this looks when I boot up the game.
We talk about the importance of authenticity and focusing on the NBA in NBA 2K. And this is what these kinds of enhancements do. They are focusing on authenticity, adding details such as the wall in the Clippers' new Intuit Dome, the Detroit Pistons Courtside Lounge, other authentic aspects that you see on TV represented there in the game. Yeah, I'm all for that.
And that's next. Team-specific features. From the shape of each arena's overhead spotlights, the Clippers' towering wall, all 30 arenas in NBA 2K26 have been designed to closely match their real-world counterparts. Teams around the league have different pregame rituals, like how they create specific patterns with their light shows or how they illuminate the court with team colors. For the teams that rely on pyrotechnics to fire up the crowd, a thin haze will fill the arena and progressively dissipate as the game gets underway. Dedicated fans of these teams will appreciate the level of authenticity and effort that went into capturing the true essence of every arena, like the Detroit Pistons Courtside Lounge behind the baseline. You remember in the NBA Finals when the Celtics were playing the Lakers and they had the pyrotechnics that took place at before the game. And then for the first, 5 minutes of the game, you could kind of see the haze.
Ah, yes.
Kind of see the in the arena, and it was kind of a cool way to kick off those games, and that's what that kind of reminds me of. So I think that again, these are all very welcome. I don't know what they're going to do for the retro teams. I don't know if they're going to be enhancing any presentation elements for those. I imagine that that's lower priority, obviously, than the current 30 NBA teams. But yeah, again, I love the sounds of all of this.
Yeah, and it would be cool if we did get some authentic throwback presentation in that way. I do know that they have some retro dawners in My NBA eras, which is definitely a cool touch. Whether they'll go beyond that remains to be seen. Like you say, lower priority, understandably so. But like they say, you notice when you're a fan of those teams, you're watching as many games as you can, you see these things in the arenas, and certainly if you're attending games as well. And the wall has been such a big part of the Clippers' home crowd since they moved to their new arena. So these are absolutely the kinds of things they need to represent to have that NBA authenticity.
It continues with arena atmosphere. Feel the palpable energy of an NBA arena in NBA 2K26. Interact with diverse fan bases as a player, and quiet the hecklers with sensational plays. Even the entertainers are putting on a show. Mascots, hype crews, and national anthem singers are raising the bar during pregame and in between timeouts. It states crowd variety and interaction. Crowd variety and interactions were a big focus this year and received major improvements and upgrades. Variety was greatly expanded with twice the number of unique character models, including more body types and heads. This represents a wide range of sizes, shapes, and ages. Clothing options are also expanded and now include current and historic player jerseys that feature a player's name on the back of the jersey. We're talking about over 60 historic players such as Jordan, Bird, and more. Many of the top current players in the game have been included as well. And yeah, that's welcome. Crowd authenticity matters. When it pans to the crowd, or when you go into instant replay and you actually see the crowd more up close, the types of jerseys that they're wearing. It would definitely be cool to see more accurate retro jerseys in there, like they're stating, that actually look like the ones that were worn when the players were playing, etc. So, yeah, I think that, again, this sounds great. I think that right now when you pan into the crowd, and my brothers and I talk about this, sometimes we laugh at it, you'll see two guys that look exactly alike sitting next to each other.
A lot of twins.
Because that's
NBA
the
fans.
random crowd generation. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's possible, right? But, if you continue through the crowd, you'll see those two same guys, right? So there's like a lot of repeats in the crowd. So, I think this sounds good as well.
And obviously this isn't something that is absolutely vital. There are more important improvements when it comes to presentation and certainly gameplay and modes. But we do notice, like you say, you pan into the crowd or there's a cut to the crowd during a replay or a cutscene of some kind, and you do notice these sets of twins or triplets taking up all these seats in the arena. Or you do see a very generic throwback jersey or even a current jersey, and it does take away from the presentation somewhat. So yeah, it's definitely welcome. And look, you go back to past wish lists, really old wish lists of ours, and people were talking about improving the crowd, getting rid of those cardboard cutouts. And as technology has actually allowed them to make better crowds and more diverse crowds, this is obviously a possibility. So great for atmosphere, no complaints whatsoever.
So fans in the crowd have been given rally towels, foam fingers, and even rubber chickens to show their team spirit. Expect to see these deployed in key moments of special games. Think NBA Cup and playoff games. Whether you or I think the NBA Cup is special or not, Andrew, it's highlighted as special here. It continues. Each fan will also wear an arena-provided LED wristband that's used to create light shows for player introductions after big plays and more. In my career, particularly passionate fans may heckle your my player during the game, listen to their chirps, and use it as a motivation to silence them with your skills on the court. And this is just another reason for Andrew to stay away from my career and my player.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that it is a nice touch. I have seen some people ask about why aren't they heckling real NBA players. As I understand it, the NBA hasn't been too thrilled about that idea. Obviously, NBA Live 10 is a prominent example of when it has happened in a game. EA had Vince Carter being booed when he was back in Toronto, Carlos Boozer being booed when he was back in Utah, although if you do actually trade them back to those teams, they get cheered. So that's a nice little bit of coding under the hood in NBA Live 10. Just want to throw that out there. So we have seen it before, but as I understand it, the NBA wasn't too thrilled about it. They obviously approved it. They've changed their minds, haven't changed their minds back since from the sounds of things. They can get away with your my play being booed, or the teams being booed in general, booing the opponents, whatever. So that makes sense that it's just focused on the my player. Nice little detail, I suppose, but there's too many other things preventing me from getting back into my career in a new game, Derek. I still will play my career in older games, where I've got an offline save that I can go back to years later, but yeah, I just can't get invested in any mode that I'm not going to be able to play years down the line.
I mean, it's got to be pretty PG, right? The chirping. You're not going to get, like, real trash talk. It's probably going to be like, you are a terrible player.
You are not good.
Or... you are not good. You learn how to shoot. That's probably going to be the chirping. I don't know how they're going to make that.
Hopefully, they don't break the fourth wall. Like, go back to 2KU and just
yeah, something like that. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
I'd appreciate that once, then I'd hate it. Quite frankly, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with the fourth wall breaks in that regard.
Yeah. So it continues in arena entertainment. It shows Hugo the Hornet video of him doing a wheelie going throughout the court. Looks pretty cool. I usually just get by this, as do you.
Yeah.
When we're playing the games, when we're during timeouts and everything. But it is a nice, presentation element. It continues during breaks in the action. New performers and entertainment will take the floor, from mascots on pocket bikes to choreographed dances and more. There will never be a dull moment. All new renditions of the U.S. and Canadian national anthems will be played pre-game prior to tip-off. So moving on real quick, Andrew, player interactions. Player interactions in 2K26 set the scene before the game with an updated lower bowl experience. Pre-game shoot-around includes fresh animations. Players and trainers can be seen conducting drills and getting warmed up ahead of the game. When there's a stoppage or break in the action, timeout, coach's challenge, end of quarter, players will see refreshed bench and huddle animations as you make substitutions and draw up plays. Some players may even make their case to the officiating crew about potential foul calls. Oh my God, if Rasheed Wallace could be around for this. This sounds great. I'd love to see, voice acting when these players are making their case to officiating crews. I doubt there's going to be voices with that. It's going to be more they go up to the official and, kind of like make some gestures
Miming,
or, et cetera. Kind of like NBA Live 2003, your favorite cutscenes.
That's what I thought
from that game. And yeah, as long as they don't bring the assistant coach back from NBA 2K17, this is a win.
Ah, yes, Coach Brubaker. Remember him well from 2K17 my career. And also playing our games.
And those aren't fond memories, people. Those are not fond memories.
Not on the court. He has some funny cutscenes in the course of the story, but yeah, we didn't need him during gameplay as well. Not outside of my career, anyway. But what a missed opportunity, like you said, to have Rasheed Wallace. We need to have 2K CTC cut the check, get Rasheed Wallace into the game for these cutscenes alone when playing with the historical teams. Of course, he has 2 retro teams that he could be on, not counting the all-time teams, of course. Yeah, once again, all good stuff.
I just want to see, in a video game, Sheed get teed up or kicked out for staring at a ref. I want to see him lock eyes with the ref and stare him down while he's walking to the bench and then just get thrown out. That would be big.
Do you also want to see Tim Duncan get kicked out for laughing?
In clapping?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's authenticity. Right?
Absolutely.
That's what we want in a sim. Late game commentary is next. Add to the memory of your clutch moments with eloquent commentary captured by the talented play-by-play and color commentary of the NBA 2K broadcast team. In the waning moments of a game, especially when it's tightly contested, there will be a noticeable shift in tone from the commentators as the clock ticks down and the intensity ratchets up. The heightened energy will feel much different from a blowout. That was kind of already the case. Anyway, if you play NBA 2K25 when the game is tight, you can usually see that uptick in emotion. They talk about the game differently. If you make a shot, say it's a close game within the last minute or something like that, you can hear Harlan, he'll raise his voice and get super excited about things that are going on. So will Stan Van Gundy if he's in the booth. So I think that's kind of already been there, but maybe they just added to it. And then broadcast voices. Returning to the broadcast booth in NBA 2K26 are the talented, iconic, and insightful crew of Kevin Harlan, Greg Anthony, Stan Van Gundy, Shams, and more. In addition to this distinguished cast, new PA announcers, international correspondents, and the incredibly savvy Tim Legler have joined the mix. Murat thought that maybe because they weren't mentioned, Brian Anderson and Grant Hill, that maybe they were no longer part of the game. I think they're just part of the and more. I think we would have known by now if they had been removed. I'd love to have an option to turn them off. As in choose the Harlan commentary crew, because I'm not really a fan of Brian Anderson and Grant Hill's commentary in the game. It doesn't feel authentic at all. Kind of sounds like they're talking down to their audience in a way of just kind of dumbing down the action and whatnot. So not really a big fan of them. But, adding Tim Legler, which they state, known for his high basketball IQ and deep X's and O's knowledge, Tim Legler is in-game to provide game breakdowns and basketball analysis. Yeah, I love that addition. I think he's kind of a throwback to what we used to have with guys like Doug Collins and Mike Fratello, Steve Snapper Jones, etc. So, yeah, love having Tim Legler added to the game.
Yeah, like you say, there's already been improvements in this regard, and late game intensity and proper commentary, smarter commentary reacting to what's actually happening. We've talked about one of the highlights I submitted for the NLSC Top 10 Plays of the Week, that dive to the floor, the toss over the head, and Adrian scores 2 points. Who cares about this really spectacular play? That did happen in games as of the last generation, and there are still some moments here and there. It's never going to be perfect in video games. There's going to be little funny moments like that. Like you said, though, it has gotten a lot better. If it's gotten even better, so much the better. Quite frankly, I'm always going to welcome further improvements to commentary, AI, and performance in general. Like you said, the alternate team is probably going to be there. We're probably never going to get that option, unfortunately, because they want people to listen to both, and they probably know that most people do what you do and restart the game to get the right commentary team, or the preferred commentary team, as the case may be. But yeah, once again, I do like the addition of Legler.
Continues PA announcers, all new talent that represents the real-world arena announcers for almost every team. For example, the electrifying sound of Sean Parker's voice has been recorded for Charlotte Hornets games, and there was comments in our Discord about the PA announcers needing an update at this point. So that'll be a welcome update to most. United States International, Team China features play-by-play announcer Ziwan Guan, and analyst Jian Yang and Kun Su, and Spanish commentators have recorded new audio as well. Hopefully I didn't butcher any of those names, but yeah, I mean, again, all welcome updates.
Yeah, and it's something that I guess we don't really think about, having the English commentary, but those enhancements are nice. I remember back in the day, the wish list for NBA Live 98, two of our founders, Tim and Lutz, are German, so they did mention that the German commentary was pretty bad. So any improvements for the alternate language versions of the commentary, I think, welcome for people around the world.
Big moments. NBA history is defined by iconic individual seasons and clutch performances in big moments. NBA 2K26 is designed to capture the magnitude of these awards and moments by drawing you in with the pageantry and spectacle of it all. There's that pageantry word, again, Andrew, that was used in the intro. It states dynamic banners, and it shows a screenshot of the Oklahoma City Thunder NBA Champions 2026 banner, and then states they're going to win the NBA championship in 2027 and 2031. Andrew, that's what this predicts, the screenshot. We'll see if that becomes a reality. They're certainly young enough. Let's put it that way. Celebrate your championships properly with dynamic banners in NBA 2K26. As you win titles, you'll see banners from those championship victories raised into the rafters, where they'll hang to commemorate your milestone achievements. Year after year, as you add to your storied legacy, these banners will be a constant reminder of your place in NBA history and a crowning achievement of your success. And Andrew, I know that you love stuff like this, especially somebody who, in the past has been really into franchise gaming, right? And the progression of a franchise and seasons being played out and, seeing that progress unfold in a virtual environment. So this is definitely something that's right up your alley, in relation to the way you used to play these games.
Definitely. Big fan of multi-season play, whether it's franchise or career modes. And it has been nice to add to NBA records and look up those records, change all-time leaders, all-time single-game records, things like that. Actually leave a mark in virtual NBA history. So this is taking it to the next step by actually adding the banners to the arena. Absolutely love that detail. I thought we had it in a previous game, but maybe I'm mistaken. But yeah, I am glad to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I know how much you love the progression in NBA 2K14 in your My career, where you're like 7 seasons in and all of that stuff. And you see all the action taking place around the league, players changing jerseys, you breaking records that, in no way in hell should you be breaking the way you are.
Yep.
And, putting together season records that in no way in hell would ever happen in real life. But at the same time, it's really cool to see it in that virtual environment and, look back on it. And we talk about, playing seasons and unique seasons. I do want to point out that VF Baller has kind of been inspired by us going back and, playing some of the classics like NBA 2K9. He thinks that's a great season. We had talked about previously on the podcast how seasons like 98, 99 are fun to play, right? Because it's unique. It was the lockout season. So many different things happened in that season. A lot of players came in out of shape, especially some of the veterans. That could have possibly been the start of Sean Kemp's downfall, right? In his career, because he put on weight and everything. And I know it was tough for a lot of those teams that were older to get back into the flow of things and compete the way they wanted to. But VF Baller stated that in light of those conversations, he started a season from 2020. And that, of course, is the bubble year and whatnot. And what inspired him to do that was just the fact that it's a unique season. So we wanted to go back and play it. And I think that's a cool idea. And I think that's also why it's great to have all of the historic content in these video games, right? Like, I think my NBA eras rocks. Sure, in execution, sometimes it can be poor based on either them not having copyrights or overall some of the authenticity being low priority. Players maybe made not realistic to the real life counterpart, but just having those seasons in the game, just having those options and having an auto progression when you go through the seasons and all of that stuff. Like, I think that's a home run idea, and I think you would agree.
Yeah, even though we do have our criticisms of it or the execution of the idea, it is an awesome idea. The fact that they have got as much detail with the progression and the automatic changes is very impressive, to say the least. We would like to see more authenticity there, of course, but yeah, I will always be drawn to the idea of my NBA eras. If I do enjoy the gameplay in NBA 2K26, I'm definitely going to try my NBA eras. And shout out to VF Baller as always. Love to hear people going back and playing memorable seasons. Retro gaming, of course. We are big advocates for retro gaming here on the NLSC Podcast, Eric.
It continues with the NBA Cup. Presentation now has full integration of the NBA Cup, including more detailed overlays and cup games that educate you on the groups and how many points teams need to advance in the unique format. In addition, custom highlight reels will be played before NBA Cup games, featuring signature NBA Cup thematic music and special NBA Cup branding to make every moment feel more significant. And then it states replays will utilize the unique Matrix Cam, which shows a 360-degree replay that orbits around highlight moments. And that sounds cool. Definitely going to want to see how that looks in-game. It continues with NBA awards. Celebrate your achievements with all 7 NBA regular season awards: MVP, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Most Improved Player, Clutch Players of the Year, and Coach of the Year. That's no different than what we've had in the past. States your trophy will be presented to you in your first home game after winning the award. If you won more than one award, you'll even see them presented together. And I believe, again, we had kind of a version of that in NBA 2K25, but nice to see that they're still prioritizing NBA awards. And then lastly, Andrew, the article ends with instant replay. Capture your favorite show-stopping highlights with instant replay, photo moments, and highlight builder features. And you know how much I loved photo moments, Andrew. I used it a lot. And I think that the instant replay feature in the game is strong. So it continues in NBA 2K26. You can now save filter presets for easy access when creating highlight reels. Put an artistic touch on your gravity-defying plays to give them a cinematic look and feel. And yeah, I'm surprised that people don't use this stuff more. I think that the photo moments is a great touch. I think it's a great way to capture the action. I'm surprised it's not used on more thumbnails. I'm surprised it's not posted more on social media. I think this stuff absolutely rocks, and I used it far more probably than the average person. So I would like to see more people using these features.
Yeah, that's definitely good news for the instant replay and photo moments. You had some great shots that you've been sharing all year long. I'm guessing that it's not used as much because there's so much focus on the online scene when it comes to NBA 2K on social media and Reddit and so forth. But to that point, this is a perfect opportunity to bring back the press book and give those features to park players and rec players, prime players, etc. Give them that opportunity, because they can't pause during the game to get these photo moments, etc., to have that media after the game presented to them, and you can save those replays, save those screenshots, etc., and then use them for thumbnails, obviously. So I would love to see the press book come back for that reason alone. Obviously, we have these features that we can pause and take advantage of at any time during regular NBA gameplay, but bring back the press book in conjunction with these features, and that'd be really awesome. Very useful for online content creation.
Yeah, I don't know. I think part of it is the fact that when these people do play online, it's on to the next game, right?
True.
It's not like a reflection of the game that they just played. They don't want to reflect on that, even if it's a win. It's like, on to the next game. On to the next upgrade. Up, all of that stuff. So like I think that's part of it.
Makes sense.
I think for offline players, but I think that the world of the internet has gotten almost too big. I think it's not as personal anymore. I feel like, some people, when, let's say they have a Twitter account, when they post, they feel like they're posting and nobody's interacting, right? Say they have a Facebook account and they do post video games related stuff. They feel like nobody's interacting. Forums aren't as popular as they used to be, including the NLSC, even though I think that we're still doing great things. We'd be lying if we said it's as popular as it used to be, as far as, people posting and whatnot, and doing things like, virtual hardwood stories and everything. So I think the internet's just gotten really big, and people feel like it's pointless sometimes to post their screenshots because nobody's going to interact. But it also speaks to why a platform like Discord is so popular, right? Because you get more instant interaction, more instant gratification when you do post a screenshot. And we've seen that in the NLSC Discord, right? We have a screenshot section, and somebody will post something like Thunder Shack or Cookie Dot or whatever, and it will get some immediate interactions, some fire emojis, some thumbs up, the basketball one, all of that stuff. So I think that's why places like Discord boomed, and why it got so popular is because it's more fulfilling when it comes to posting content.
Intimate in a way,
than
yeah.
The connection, exactly. When back in the day, when you were posting on the NLSC and other people were posting on the NLSC and the story section and the screenshot sections and video sections, that was peak, right? That's where you got the most interaction. So I think that's mostly why we don't see it as much today.
Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, nba-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community.
The article ends with, from the rafters to the hardwood and everything in between, NBA 2K26 presentation enhancements raise the intensity inside the arena and make every game feel like it's prime time. Pre-order NBA 2K26 Superstar or Leave No Doubt Edition and experience all of these authentic features for yourself during early access starting August 29th. And so I have no issues with any of this. I know there's a lot of people taking this as a negative. I was looking at some of the comments under these announcements and under this link and whatnot. And, people are like, this game is doomed and blah, blah. I don't know how you get that out of that article. There's a lot of solid enhancements. Everything sounds good. These are relevant updates, to the presentation. I think that sometimes people thrive on negativity and they don't know how to get out of that mindset, or they think they're funny, right? I'm not saying that these presentation updates are going to appeal to everyone, but calling it, the game doomed, or saying that, none of this is relevant and all of that stuff, I completely disagree with that. And I think you feel the same.
Yeah, to say it's irrelevant or unnecessary, completely disagree. This is going for authenticity, which is what we want in a sim game, because that is what it is, a sim game simulating the NBA, bringing in realistic elements. Some of those comments might be a hangover from the gameplay blog, or simple 2K fatigue, dissatisfaction with 2K25 and other recent releases, that they just feel that the game itself is going to be bad, irrespective of these improvements. But there are those comments as well that are talking about irrelevant presentation updates here, and they're certainly not irrelevant or unwanted or unnecessary. Again, I think some of them are just basically 2K fatigue and being negative about the game or pessimistic about the game in general. But yeah, this blog has a lot of good news.
So I asked two community questions related to the Presentation Courtside Report, Andrew. The first one, basketball gamers, Tim Legler has been added to the commentary team in NBA 2K26. And as I stated, I'm a fan. But this had me thinking, if you had a choice, who would you replace from the current commentary team for NBA 2K? Also, who is your favorite in-game commentator of all time? Very few responses related to who would you replace from the current commentary team? And also, I asked, who is your favorite in-game commentator of all time? I meant on the virtual hardwood, but we got some answers related to real life basketball, real life commentators, guys like Dick Stockton, and that's fine too. So this made for some interesting responses. Frosty Bias at Frosty Bias states, Doug Collins was my favorite national broadcaster. And like I stated to him, he was one of my favorites in real life, as was Mike Fratello. And, for the reasons that we already stated, they talked X's and O's. They were genuinely excited about basketball and about what was going on the floor. And it wasn't about hot takes. It was about, not only about educating the fans, but, they just showed a true love for the game. And they talked about it the right way. I also stated to him that I loved Bill Walton and that I know he exaggerated at times, but he brought genuine excitement to the broadcasts. Bill Walton, you always knew he was going to bring it. You always knew that he was going to get super into it, and it helped you get even more into it as a fan.
Yeah, that combination of a fun personality, a player that had credibility based on their career, and also clearly demonstrated knowledge. And not all great commentators were great players, just as not all great coaches used to be great players. The skills don't always translate in that regard, as we well know. Magic Johnson the greatest point guard of all time, in my top 3 all time, and also a very charismatic individual. Some of his commentary and analysis is not on par with his basketball IQ and charisma. But yeah, those analysts who were former players who knew their stuff, entertaining personalities, and were able to talk about the X's and O's in a way that wasn't condescending. Yeah, so valuable. Doug Collins, certainly enjoyed him back in the day. And Bill Walton, yeah. How many highlights from the 90s on the NBA on NBC is his voice just there, marveling at a fantastic play?
How many times did he say, throw it down, big man, when a big man threw it down, especially Shaq?
Signature.
Gotta love that. That's Brandon, states Dick Stockton, the ever-professional Dick Stockton. He's always a pleasure to listen to when you go back and listen to, 80s broadcasts, etc. Roger Ward, Live 01 legend, states Mike Breen would be my top choice. Kevin Harlan and Mike Fratello would be honorable mentions. I like Mark Jackson's insight, but he's not necessarily my favorite commentator. And yeah, I've said it before, I actually like the NBA Live broadcasting crew from, NBA Live 18, 16, 15, etc. that had Jeff Van Gundy and Mike Breen. I prefer them over Kevin Harlan in NBA 2K, but Harlan does a great job. We know that. I feel like, Harlan's been doing it for such a long time. Every now and then I feel like I'd like to hear a different voice. I don't know if you're that way as well, but I mean, we're playing NBA 2K9, a game that came out about 17 years ago. And who's commentating? It's Kevin Harlan, right? And Clark Kellogg. So I will say that one nice thing about NBA 2K9, and I think you would agree, the courtside reporting is done by Cheryl Miller. And I think that she does an excellent job. And I prefer her as a courtside reporter as well over Doris Burke, who used to be the courtside reporter in some of the 2Ks. But yeah, too bad Cheryl Miller's role didn't get expanded in the 2K games. But yeah, I agree with Roger. Mike Breen, that commentary crew with Jeff Van Gundy would probably be my, top choice for a newer game.
Yeah, that was such a downgrade in NBA Live 19 when they got rid of Jeff Van Gundy and Mike Breen. They rank up there for me as well. For me, it's hard to go past Marv Albert and Mike Fratello in NBA Live 2004 and NBA Live 2005. And this is no disrespect to the late Don Poyer and Bob Elliott, of course, in earlier NBA Lives, even Vern Lundquist for that matter, in NBA Live 98. Iconic voice there. But for so long, we wanted to have Marv Albert in NBA Live. Again, go back to the wish lists on the NLSC. You can see, get Marv Albert, get the NBA on NBC. We didn't get the full presentation, of course, but we did get Marv Albert eventually. And obviously, he's retired now. He was in serious decline towards the end of his career. He was getting a lot of players' names wrong and not really keeping up with the action. Father Time is undefeated and all that. But in his day, he was the voice of the NBA. So finally having him on the virtual hardwood like that. And he was in NBA Jam Extreme, which is a game that I'll be covering later this month in Wayback Wednesday, actually, Derek. But he wasn't a good fit. He was no Tim Kitzrow when it came to the NBA Jam style, but he was a much better fit for NBA Live. So probably my favorite in real life and also on the virtual hardwood.
I do want to point out that, you notice I stated for a new game, like Mike Breen and Jeff Van Gundy could still do it.
Exactly.
Marv Albert definitely could not, right? So like if I had to choose, Mike Breen or Marv Albert, for commentary in their primes, and their commentary primes, we could say, I'm going with Marv Albert.
Oh, yeah. For a new game, Mike Breen, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Marv Albert and Mike Fratello, both were excellent. And Doug Collins absolutely should be part of that commentary crew. I loved listening to him as well. Moving over to Discord, Ja Poople states, for me, it's a toss-up between Don Poyer and Bob Elliott and Marv Albert and Mike Fratello for NBA Live. So he's talking about NBA Live commentary. And yeah, I mean, how great were Don Poyer and Bob Elliott, Andrew, for those early live games? Completely underrated, in my opinion. And, I go back and play those games, and I still like listening to those guys.
Oh, yeah, they did a fine job. And I do have many fond memories of them calling the action on the virtual hardwood in those games. Bob Elliott also Joe the Show Jackson in the first NBA Street.
QB1120 states, Harlan's in-game commentary is unmatched, but I enjoyed Breen and Van Gundy. He's a terrible person, but Marv Albert and Steve Kerr were a fun pairing. I think Kerr broke the fourth wall on some lines. And actually, I really enjoyed Steve Kerr on the mic in the game. He's on commentary in NBA 2K14, NBA 2K13. And, I think that he is levels above Greg Anthony as an in-game commentator. So I've never been that big of a fan of Greg Anthony. Not that he's terrible, but I preferred Kerr over him.
Yeah, Kerr was great as well. Totally agree.
And I believe we have a response over on Facebook, Andrew.
Yes, Martin says, I want Gus Johnson freaking out when a clutch jump shot gets made. Cold-blooded. I may not have done that justice, but he's a fan of Gus Johnson.
To piggyback off of that, I'd love to have seen Tom Heinsohn as a commentator in games, specifically for the Celtics, so I could hear him yelling at the refs and being as animated as he was on real broadcasts, because that definitely would have added to the authenticity for me. So, Andrew, the second community question was, what are your thoughts on the NBA 2K26 presentation updates? T. Gentry at Bucky T states, arena visuals, I'm optimistic about the graphics. You know how they are dark, but I do think that they are better than 2K25. He continues about the arena atmosphere. He states, I'm excited to see what 2K has done with this. And he states, Tim Legler, I'm a fan. He says, NBA presentation upgrades are a W for us offline gamers. And I agree. I think most of this speaks to the offline crowd, and that's mostly what we play, Andrew.
Yeah, once again, I'm all about the authenticity for the NBA modes, the NBA-oriented gameplay, so a lot of welcome news in this blog.
Phil Lime 2002 at Phil Lime 2K states, the banner news will also have an impact on my NBA, which is a nice side effect, and it's nice when you see like updates that just kind of trickle down through certain game modes and everything, so definitely a bonus there. Mark at Black Zed 2013 states, I love these things, was just disappointed they decided to leave it to our imagination as to what these things will look and sound like for now. I mean, they give some examples in the article, but obviously you're not seeing the full-fledged product yet. So you'll have to either wait for more gameplay or get your hands on the sticks. Justin Francis at Justin Francis 7 states, Tim Legler has long been one of the best in the business. Adding him to the booth is a big win. So a lot of positive reaction there, Andrew, about this courtside report related to presentation. And yeah, all of it sounds good to me.
Yeah, and there's a strong possibility that we'll get some trailers that show off some of the new PA announcer audio, the new commentary from Tim Legler. We've seen that in previous years, a bit closer to release, as they're releasing more trailers that show off these aspects. A little surprised they didn't put out a couple of things when they're talking about Tim Legler joining the commentary team, but again, that could be in the pipeline.
Yeah, I remember when they were adding Stan Van Gundy to the commentary team, they even did full-fledged interviews with him. And those clips got placed on social media, and then they also did the same thing when PA announcers were announced, the official ones, and they were showing him making the calls in the booth for the video game and all of that, and we're interviewing him and stuff like that. So I love that. That's a nice touch, and it does get me excited when I see stuff like that for the new game. So, I've stated it before. I'm excited for NBA 2K26. I'm excited to see the presentation enhancements and, hopefully some gameplay improvement as well, because like I stated, I put almost 500 hours into NBA 2K25. So this is probably the most excited I've been for an NBA 2K on PS5 gen, to be honest, because 2K25 was the 2K that I've enjoyed the most on this gen.
Yeah, I'm not as optimistic as I've said before, but at the same time, I feel like if I keep my expectations kind of low, I might get blown away. I'm certainly going to approach NBA 2K26 with an open mind, though, so yeah, if I'm blown away, I'm certainly not going to complain. But yeah, that's the insight into presentation. Certainly some good news, as we said, but a few more previews to go, obviously, Derek, so we'll see what 2K has cooked up. With that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. As always, thank you for tuning in, and please join us again next week, and every week, on the NLSC, NBA-live.com, our YouTube channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts. In the meantime, make sure you're following us on social media. That's where you can get in touch with us, and of course, stay up to date with all of our content. So Derek, go ahead and plug the handles.
You can reach me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at D43G and at D4384. I'm also on YouTube, D43, and on the NLSC, D43.
As for me, I'm Andrew in the forum, and Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. The NLSC is on X, Facebook, and Blue Sky at the NLSC. We're also NLSC Basketball on Instagram and Threads. We're on YouTube at NBA Live Series Center. And of course, give a look to the NLSC itself, NBA-live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. So, thank you once again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.